Good morning, everyone. Australia faces some of the world's most extreme environmental challenges, deeply impacting its unique ecosystem. We'll explore the effects of climate driven changes on Australia's landscape. Australia's average temperature has increased by around 1.4 degrees Celsius since 1910, leading to more intense and prolonged heat waves across the country. These rising temperatures not only stresses urban area but also severely impact natural ecosystem. The Great Barrier Reef has suffered from major coral bleaching events in 2016, 2017 and 2020 respectively, with nearly 50% of the corals affected. This bleaching disrupts maritime biodiversity as thousands of species rely on coral reef for food and shelter. The 2019 and 2020 Black Summer bushfire devastated over 18 million hectares, releasing 830 million tons of CO2, which worsened air pollution across the country. This led to hazardous air quality, impacting millions and causing respiratory issues. The fires affected numerous species, destroyed habitats, and further intensified Australia's carbon footprint. Increased rainfall and flooding, particularly in Queensland and New South Wales, severely affect ecosystems, eroding soils and washing away vegetation. For example, recent floods have disrupted habitats for species like the platypus, which rely on stable water levels and native fish populations, further stressing freshwater ecosystem problems. Disaster also bring direct threats to Australian wildlife. During the Black Summer fires, around 60,000 koalas were displaced or injured. In aquatic environments, floods disrupted habitats from freshwater species like native fish, whose populations suffer from sudden habitat changes.
Today we're going to talk about something big, which is the global environmental change in Australia. Now this isn't your average weather update. This is a look at how climate change is creating both challenges as well as surprising opportunities for the land down under. Now let's start with the biggest headline grabber, bushfires. If you were paying attention in 2019 and 2020, you saw Australia go through one of its worst bushfire seasons ever, the Black Summer. Over 18 million hectares were burnt, entire communities were displaced, and an estimated 3 billion animals were affected. This isn't a one-off event though. Scientists are saying that thanks to global warming, intense bushfire seasons, that could become the norm. And that's a huge deal, not just for the wildfire, but actually for the economy. Bushfires have cost Australia billions in insurance claims and damages. In fact, in the last fire season alone, over $5 billion went up in smoke. Literally. So the economic hit is real, and it's only getting worse as the climate keeps heating up. And then there's the Great Barrier Reef. A lot of people don't realize that the coral bleaching is one of the clearest signs of climate change. Warmer ocean temperatures are bleaching the reef, and over 50% of it has already been impacted. Why does it matter? The reef isn't just a tourist attraction, it is worth around $6 billion annually to the economy, and it supports thousands of jobs. So when we talk about climate change, we're also talking about the real world effects on people's livelihoods.
Australia is dealing with some major environmental changes like bushfire, droughts, and damage to the Great Barrier Reef. So to tackle these, government has introduced several programs and taken some key measures to implement these strategies. Firstly, Australia is committed to net zero emissions by 2050 and plans to reduce the emissions by 43% by 2030 as compared to 2005 levels. The Rewiring the Nation plan has invested $20 billion to upgrade the electricity grid to support more renewable energy. Australia is a leader in solar energy, with one of 3 homes having rooftop solar panels. To store solar power and keep the grid stable, the government introduced programs like community batteries. At the same time, the National Hydrogen Strategy is pushing the development of clean hydrogen as a future energy resource. Another big project is Glimpsland Offshore Wind Farm. It's expected to generate enough energy to power thousands of homes by 2028. These efforts have made progress. For example, the country's electricity emissions are on track and will be dropped by 83% by 2030. However, there are still some challenges. Australia depends heavily on coal exports, and the switch to electric vehicles is slower than in other countries. To speed things up, more investments in green transport and infrastructure are needed.
Glaciers are melting rapidly and sea levels are rising. The fire raged and destroying countless forests and homes. Air pollution is getting worse in our cities, and the global temperatures are rising every year. In the midst of this climate crisis, Australia, as one of the world's major carbon emitters, is looking for a solution. Can nuclear energy as a highly efficient and clean energy source be Australia's future option? But nuclear energy is not without its challenges. Building a nuclear power plant requires huge investment. The average cost per kilowatt is as high as $6,000, 4 times that of solar energy and 3 times that of wind energy. The costs of solar and wind energy are much lower. This is a long-term investment, as nuclear power plants are usually designed to last 60 years, far longer. One of the greatest advantages of nuclear energy is its environmental benefit. Compared to electricity generation from fossil fuels, nuclear energy emits almost no carbon dioxide. A nuclear power plant with a capacity of 1,000 megawatts can avoid between 5 and 10 million tons of carbon dioxide emissions each year. Unlike coal and natural gas power plants, nuclear power plants do not release harmful gases into the air. Every year, nuclear energy reduces global greenhouse gas emissions by billions of tons, equivalent to the carbon footprint of tens of millions of cars. Nuclear technology continues to improve. However, nuclear energy is not always popular in society. Data shows that in Europe, around 60% of people support the development of nuclear energy, and the acceptance rate in Asia and North America has reached more than 50%. However, the acceptance rate in Australia is relatively low, at only around 35%.
We will discuss ethical concerns of global environmental change in Australia. Climate impacts will affect future generations, raising ethical concerns about the rights and quality of life for those inheriting the planet. Indigenous and low-income communities are disproportionately affected, facing issues like land rights and resource access. Policies like green bonds and emission schemes may unevenly burden low-income groups, sparking fairness concerns. Economic growth often conflicts with biodiversity preservation, challenging Australia to balance development with ecological protection. Now, talking about the green bonds, they are proven essential in Australia's fight against global environmental change, channeling funds into sustainable projects that drive positive impact. These bonds finance renewable energy initiatives like wind and solar farms, accelerating the shift from fossil fuels to clean energy, which is a core part of Australia's net zero strategy. Green bonds also support infrastructure projects such as Rewiring the Nation initiative, improving the renewable energy transmission and protecting ecosystems like the Great Barrier Reef. Green bonds emphasize transparency. Issuers often report the environmental impacts of funded projects, reducing greenwashing risks and aligning with investor expectations. This openness strengthens trust and encourages more investment in eco-friendly initiatives. By attracting global investors, green bonds boost funding for essential environmental projects and supporting a more sustainable and resilient Australia. Thank you.